Hello, everyone. Um, yeah, follow up for today. Um, hmm, I guess a lot of you guys are still at work if that's what's going on, or maybe you're busy with chores around the house or something like that. Um, yeah. Well, I was gonna. I was in prayer right after dinner. Well, I prayed before I eat, and then I had more prayer after I ate. Um, and And I was asking, I asked God again, like, if He's got anything more He'd like to say to you guys that are initiating this, the eye activation. And He just said, tell them that best of luck, best of luck. Sort of in a more warm way, sort of like, yeah, go for it, way to go. And so, that sounds like a blessing. Like that sounds pretty good to me. I would highly I would integrate that. You know, see how it feels and pray to God and let it sort of charge you. Let it encourage you. Um, and well, I was thinking. I kind of asked like, is there anybody? I asked God. I asked him just, is there anybody that's actually kind of doing this? And he said there's a few. Um, so what I kind of wanted to do, I asked him. So I was like, okay, let me pray for them, and he's like, yeah, that's good. And then I said, should I maybe like, well, basically, I kind of got a thought, and I figured, hey, what I should do is make kind of like a Zoom meeting or something like that, like online telecom thing, with the people that are a few of you guys that are going ahead with this, and I'd also like to include. There's a couple that say that you already have this. Your pineal is not calcified. Um, so if it would be cool to have you guys on board too, because I can only say things from my perspective, and sometimes not everybody sort of works on with my personnel. Like it's always good to have maybe more than one character, more than one personality type to to sort of encourage folks and to give some feedback, guidance. I still feel a little bit young in life to be giving people guidance, but um, if that's interesting to you guys, please just leave a comment and see. Um, there's many ways we could go about. Maybe like I'm maybe Zune. I don't know. Maybe you guys can also recommend a platform. And I'd like to keep it a little bit sort of small group. I want to kind of vet the people that are part of this. I don't want just anybody to be able to join. Um, and I want it to be a constructive session. I don't want it to be a an argument as to whether or not it's a good or a bad idea. I think that we've already done, and I want it to be more for the ones that are taking this, going forward with it. There's a lot of feedback. I think that would be super cool to hear. Um, it's a thought. And when I prayed about it to God, He sounded pretty stoked about it as well. So I'd really like to see what happens. Um, Leave a comment if that's interesting to you. Actually, that was all I had to say. There's a whole. Oh, the spirit just told me. This spirit kind of just told me to talk about. Some of you guys were a little bit curious to hear about the people that came next to me and said, "Oh, we can hear what you're thinking," like that thing. I mentioned it in a previous video not long ago, and yeah, that seems to be if you guys have heard anything about voice to skull technology, um, I wonder if it's something like that. But I don't know. All I know is that many beings have the ability to read your mind. Now, whether or not these beings can then radio that into somebody else's head, it wouldn't surprise me. Um, and my experience is that that seems to be the case. Um, I've actually seen people, sometimes they use it somewhat constructively, by mind linking, like a bunch of people working on something, like engineers will mind link and look at a schematic, and then they'll, like, three or four of them will make advancements on the initial design without saying anything, right? And I saw that, and they were kind of showing me how that was working to kind of verify that this is what was going on. Anyways, that's another, off on a tangent again. So and somehow I would, like, a good year ago, when I was out in town or whatever. Um, okay, so I'll give you the latest, the last time it happened, because it's the one I remember the best. Everything that happened a little bit before is jumbled up with so many different things, so I don't remember anything specifically. But when I first moved to this town, I went down to, one day I was at the local shopping or grocery store on a weekend, and it was still during the summer. And I had my car parked in the parking lot. I'd gone and bought some stuff. Then I go out to the car, and I'm about to load up my car, and somebody had parked right next to my car. It was a family, and the dad just looked at me like with a smile, like, "Yo, man," like, he just looked at me like he was looking at somebody that uh, he looked like he was looking at somebody that was like a celebrity or something, right? And then his daughter, who looks like she looks like she was, teeny bopper, right? Maybe a little bit older, turning 14, 15 or something like that. She starts walking over to me, and she's like, "I can hear what you're thinking." And I was like, "Oh no, not one of these again." Is so you know what? A little teenager in your head is gonna make you want to, like, just, you know, I mean, they're really annoying, especially in this part of the world. They can get very annoying. Um, and then something happens. Like, I think my angel helped me or something, because after she says that, she turns right around, and then she just darts back in the car, and I'm like, "Yo, leave me alone," you know? And then I just jump in my car and I drive off. And the dad's just like, just like, and I'm like, "Yeah, okay, whatever." Like, I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. I hate attention, you know? Um, And the thing is, I was used to that because it happened to me a couple times back in another city that I was at too. And same thing, really annoying little teenage girl comes over and is like, "Oh, I can hear what you're thinking." It's like, yo, somebody should smack you, you know? Um, it's just bizarre. So that's what happened. And oh, and here's another. Well, it's 10 minutes in. Maybe I should just make a separate video. Um, yes, I did notice that they were definitely able to hear with reasonably high fidelity what was happening inside other people's minds if they really wanted to. Because there was another incident. This is way before I knew what was going on, and I was a mystic Buddhist by now, because atheist Buddhism wasn't going to cut it, because I'd already seen that there's so much more than. I just wasn't seeing it with a Christian lens, because obviously I'd never had my sudden angelic intervention. But I was talking with my wife, and I said, and we were just watching Netflix one evening, and then we started talking about like remembering our college days back in the States. And I remember back in college in the States when people used to walk around with those big old fuzzy sandals that have like Looney Tune characters on them. They're really big and plush. And I'd noticed that weird things were happening at that time, of course. And I was starting to look into like ancient Sumerian religions to see if their ancient sort of pagan or mystery traditions could explain a little bit what was happening. I found a lot of stuff correlated with like the Hindu Vedas, and of course the sutras from the Buddha, but it was all still very vague. Per title, Mystery Babylon, right? Mystery, that's the key. It's mystery. Um, and uh, and so the day after I talked about, I've noticed now something was happening, and somehow, whether they be people or they were people or non-people in human skin or whatever, but I was this weird thing was happening, and I was getting some stranger attention, a lot. And and I didn't really buy into the fact that it was some kind of like beaming aura. You can't. I mean, and it's not because I was necessarily dressing all that good either. I mean, I dressed pretty basic. So, and then the day after we talked about these plush slippers, what do you know? We in the end of our hallway was I live in this socialist country here. They got like social welfare where basically everybody gets a house, and so on the end of our hallway there's a communal there's a state owned unit where they put basically people that can't afford to live, or people with major problems like drug addictions or whatever, that need to be reintegrated to society, right? So there's this dude, and he's wearing his plush slippers, and I never seen him before. It was the day after this happened, right, when we were talking about plush slippers. And he turns out, again, really long story short, but he was definitely not human, man. I suspect he was body snatcher, because he kind of invited me to his place, and at the time I thought that was like, hey, that's kind of cool. I like hanging out with people. And then when I'm at his place a few weeks later, he's like, yo, Eric, you got the coolest mentality, man. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, how do you know what my mentality is like? And then he's like, oh, oh, and then I said, yeah, I'm kind of into meditation and stuff. And he's like, oh, that's great, that's great. And I was like, are you into any of that? And he's like, yeah, I believe in like the Egyptian gods. And then he goes off saying something really bizarre. Like he shows me like how he's doing like these Muay Thai moves and stuff. And he's like, oh, yeah. And he's basically saying all these things that I was doing, but he wouldn't have never known anything about it unless he was somehow aware of, unless he's communing with familiars or something like that were familiar with what I'm doing. All these hints and references, and I'm like, can you explain to me one day about these Egyptian religions that you know so much about? And he's like, yeah, man, there's like all these different deities and stuff. It's really complicated, but I'll tell you all about it someday. And then he goes to his kitchen, grabs a bunch of Valium, and he's like, "You want a bunch of, you want some Valium?" I'm like, "No, no, thanks." He pops some Valium, and then he just dozes off. He just like falls asleep, and I'm like, "Yeah, okay, I'm out of here. This guy's unstable." So, but he was saying so many weird things. Like he was saying so many strange things, and they were all like, I'm pretty sure he didn't do any Muay Thai and things like that. He didn't look the part. And yeah, and then he said that thing about, you got the coolest mentality. Like, what do you mean mentality? We've only talked like 45 minutes, and I never told you what I think about things, you know. um yeah, so that was the dealio. I hope that wasn't too much of a offshoot blabbering here. May you never bump into such strange things. mm, may it be more constructive, what happens to you guys. But all I know is that that was before I met Jesus. So, all right, guys, that was it. Let me know in the comments if you want to do a little digital get together, a little cafe talk. That would be very nice, in my opinion. So, all right, guys, God bless. Um, God bless, and let's pray for each other. All right, bye.